What gift did you give that made you speechless by the reaction you got from it? 1. When our child was in a co-op preschool, one of her favorite teachers retired. So I made her a memory quilt using photos printed on fabric. At first, I was going to use photos from kids in the class with our child. But then other parents who had had that teacher that year asked if they could be included. I said of course. Then other parents who had had that teacher in previous years asked if they could be included. I said of course. Then parents of children who had graduated the co-op asked if they could be included. I said of course. I ended up with photos of 77 kids. What started out as a lap quilt ended up just barely fitting onto my 12 quilting frame. I collected the digital photos. I prepped the fabric for the photos and ironed it all onto freezer paper so I could print them. I printed all the photos. I cut everything for making those photos into square blocks set on point. I sewed all the blocks. Had to go through the tiny scraps to make enough fabric for a couple of the last blocks. Then sewed all the blocks together. I sewed the border. I made a title and legend square of who all the kids were for the back. I sandwiched it with the batting and the backing. I loaded it all onto the quilt frame. I quilted the entire thing. I squared the entire thing. I sewed the binding on. It was a couple of months of nearly full-time work. On the teacher's last day, the co-op had a party for her, and presented her with a huge gift basket. At the bottom of the basket was the folded up quilt, with all the other little presents piled on top. She was so excited and pulled out the gifts one by one. She didn't realize there was a quilt there until we pointed it out. She pulled it out and started unfolding it. By the time she'd gotten it all unfolded, she was outright crying. I heard that after we all left, she unfolded it on the floor, and got on her knees to look at every single photo. I've never had anyone so appreciative of a present I made them. 2. I decided to give my mother a gift on last Christmas that would truly show her how much she meant to me. I had been saving up for months to buy her a piece of jewelry from a high-end designer that I knew she loved. I had never spent so much money on a single gift before, but I wanted to show her how much I appreciated everything she had done for me throughout my life. I eagerly watched as my mother unwrapped the gift. She opened the box, and her eyes widened with surprise and joy. She carefully took out the jewelry and held it up to the light, examining it from every angle. She then turned to me with tears in her eyes and said, "This is the most beautiful thing I have ever received. I can't believe you would spend so much money on me. You're the best gift I've ever been given." I was speechless. I had never seen my mother so overwhelmed with emotion. I had hoped that the gift would make her happy, but I had never expected such a heartfelt reaction. As the day went on, my mother wore the jewelry with pride and showed it off to all of her friends and family. She kept thanking me over and over again for the thoughtful and generous gift. Seeing my mother's reaction was a truly special moment for me. It made me realize the power of a well-chosen gift and how much it can mean to someone you love. It also made me appreciate my mother even more and reminded me of all the sacrifices she had made for me throughout my life. That Christmas will always hold a special place in my heart, and the memory of my mother's reaction to my gift will stay with me forever. 3. When my younger daughter, Teresa, was 3, I gave her a stuffed chick at Easter. She loved that toy. It survived the sandbox, an attack from a Great Dane when the chick lost her beak, and many times in the washer. When we lost my older daughter in a terrible pedestrian/auto accident when Teresa was 9, Chicky was her best friend and comforter. Once, on a long trip, we had to backtrack 300 miles to retrieve Chicky when she left her at a hotel. Chicky was a member of the family. As Teresa grew older, Chicky remained on her bed or a